candle when the sun goes down.
Okay,
As you're remembering your loved ones.
that's for now.
Oh, he's wearing his Joseph one.
Thanks, Regina.
There's actually about 22
Hey, notice. It's the Parashat Joseph.
There you go. It's not working. What did you with the other? Just flip it.
Jason and I can hardly see anybody, but that's the consequence. Good. Are we ready? It's nice to see so many people out there, though. This is great. Wonderful to be together for Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Cynthia, are we good to go?
Rabbi, you sound a little distant, so y'all might need to speak up, please.
Wow. I'm telling you, I'm distant because we're at the temple and you guys aren't. So I'm going to try to get as much mileage out of that not very funny joke as I can get.
You're gonna get it. I'm going to mute everyone. So Rabbi, you might need to mute yourself. I mean, unmute yourself.
Hello.
Go for it.
Hello.
Okay. Chakalaka.
Okay, fabulous. Cynthia, I do have my phone right here. If anything comes up and you need to text me, I've got that available. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach to everybody. We are so glad to be together and celebrate Shabbat. Let's start with the Nigun first. This is our Nigun for the month of Kislev. Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom. It's so wonderful to be with everyone on this Zoom call and welcoming Hanukkah with each other. During the course of our nights of Hanukkah, we have different people who are going to be sharing some readings and saying a word about their experience and how their involvement in the Temple of Emmanuel has been particularly meaningful. Tonight, and Cynthia, I trust that Aiden Badish is on the call. So if we can pull up Aiden's screen. And Aiden, you will have a chance to both speak about how being involved with BBYO, which is our high school youth group, connected with really an international organization, how that's had an impact for you. And then there's the reading, which you can, all of this stuff is downloadable on our live stream page. But I've had the great pleasure to get to know Aiden from the time he was just a younger child and all the way through with Bar Mitzvah and our confirmation and experience at Temple Emmanuel. And Aiden, it's really wonderful to see you this evening. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and then the reading after that. Whenever you're ready and are unmuted, please.
The temple community has given myself and my family a social outlet, and then an outlet also to release all of our good energy and to trying to help grow our community and make it better overall. And then for the reading tonight, night 2, reflective of living life as a minority. Often persecuted over the centuries, the rabbis teach in Numbers Rabbah 13 that nations of the world are constantly bothering the Jewish people about the logic of the Torah and the commandments. Of course, some commandments cannot be explained logically. Doing the ones that are least logical requires the most faith. It is only by faith that the Jewish people can live and survive as a nation. Some of the worship in the Holy Temple was understood by the nations. They understood that sacrifices were brought to atone for sins or to express gratitude. But they couldn't find a reason for the lamp, the menorah, in the temple. Does God need light? They asked. Lighting the menorah was the least logical worship in the temple, and therefore the one needing the most faith. It was this very lamp that symbolized the devotion the Jewish people had to the Torah and the commandments of God. And it was therefore the most suitable instrument for the miracle that also symbolized God's closeness to the Jewish people. Tonight is both Shabbat and Hanukkah. Shabbat celebrates the creation of the world, while Hanukkah commemorates the miracle of one vial of oil lasting for 8 days. How can you fuse Shabbat and its connection to creation and Hanukkah with a celebration of miracle?
Ishkach. Thank you, Aiden. And that is for us to consider how it is they were lived by faith and how we fuse this miracle with Shabbat. So if you have your shamash lit, you're ready for lighting our candles this night. We have 2 candles to go on as we go into this second day of Hanukkah. So if you've got your menorahs ready to go, if you'll lead us in the blessing, please.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu
to bring light in for this holiday of Hanukkah, and you have performed miracles for our ancestors, giving them great blessing. We mark that what happened in days long ago in this season. Ma'osur is the next song on the prayer page. Ma'osur Yeshuati lechana el shabeha tikon betefilati v'sham toda v'zabeach v'etachim abeach mitzarам abeach azemor v'shir mizmor Chanukah hamizbeach azemor v'shir mizmor Chanukah hamizbeach. Rock of ages, let us song, praise our saving power. You amid the raging foes, where our sheltering tower. Yours they assail us, but your arm upfail us, and your work broke the sword when our own strength failed us, and your work broke the sword when our own strength failed us. If you've got dreidels, now's a good time to get the dreidels. We're going to sing a little medley, starting with Sibby Bone.
Sirvivon so Hanukkah 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 Sirvivon so Hasimcha Hula Neskad Haya Hashem Neskadon Haya Hashem Hasimcha Hula Sirvivon so Hanukkah Hanukkah
Now let's try this for a second as if we are in the land of Israel. So we would sing. Our dreidels would not have a shin for sham, for the miracle that happened there, but rather for ko, for here. We say, sov nasova, ko vacho. Spinning all around, every which way. Niskado hayalpo, great miracle happened here. So we'll transport ourselves over to Israel and we go, sov nasova, sounds like this. Sov nasova, ko vacho, niskado hayalpo. Neskadon hayavo, sov nasova kovacho. A song, Banu Choshech, on the song sheets, the supplemental page. The song written in the early 1960s as an attempt to help us remember that this holiday is about each of us remembering the light that we can each bring. Each of us on our own we're one light, but together we are or etan. We are a great big light. Banu Choshech. Banu Choshech legale beyadenu ormai kol echadu or katan bekulanu or etan sura Choshech halashkor sura mine haor sura Choshech halashkor sura mine haor. We have come to banish night, banish it with candlelight. All the little candle rays join to make a mighty blaze. Vanish darkness, vanish night. Hanukkah is the feast of light. Vanish darkness, vanish night. Hanukkah is the feast of light. Utsu etza betufar. Others may come and scheme against us. Their plans will be annulled. Ki Immanuel, as Isaiah says, and is the name of our synagogue, because God is with us.
Utsu etza betufar. Utsu etza betufar. Utsu etza betufar. Gabru davar velo yakuti Immanuel. Utsu etza betufar. Gabru davar velo yakuti Immanuel. Utsu etza betufar. Gabru davar velo yakuti. Utsu etza betufar. Gabru davar velo yakuti Immanuel. Utsu etza betufar. Gabru davar velo yakuti Immanuel.
This next one is not on your song sheet. It's a popular one. O Hanukkah, O Hanukkah.
Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party with loud and Sahara. Gather around the table, give you a treat. Tables to spin and latkes to eat. And while we are singing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago.
going over to Yiddish now.
Yom Tov Hashem, alles Liebe, Friede, Benetton, Afazoine, alle nach dem Weg, spielen wir. So gestern hat gesetzt, alle Schiff geschwinde, sie ginde, sie gelehrt on. Singt alle Nisim und Gott den Nisim und kann die Tanzen in Korn. Singt alle Nisim und Gott den Nisim und kann die Tanzen in Korn.
From the shtetl, we go, or at least the Lower East Side. We go into the early 1980s. Peter, Paul, and Mary, Peter Yarrow of the Peter, Paul, and Mary crew, who stood right on this bema and sang a song, which I believe Cindy was going to put up in the chat space. You want to grab the lyrics. It's about lighting candles. You'll note, if you count, there are 8 lights that are going to be lit. There are 12 lines total in the song. Let's let those numbers sit and percolate for you. Peter Yarrow, who's Jewish, writing a song about our people and encouraging us to carry the work forward of freedom and tolerance, justice and peace, knowing that those things don't just happen, they take genuine work.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, give thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured, when the right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice, justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for wisdom to know, when the peacemaker's eye is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become harmful. Light one candle for those who are suffering, the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, and anger not tear us apart. Light one candle to bind us together, with peace as the song in our hearts. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly that we keep alive in that flame? What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? We come as far, always believing that justice will somehow prevail. This is the burden, this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out, don't let the light go out, don't let the light go out.
With our Hanukkah candles burning right now, we can sit. One of the nice traditions to do during Hanukkah is to sit and tell stories. And I invite you to do that. If maybe you're doing Zoom calls with family members or friends, or if you're just on your own, to grab a book, a Jewish book, and read some stories. I have a story tonight that I'm going to share with everybody. It's from Chaim Potok, one of the great American Jewish writers of the 20th century. And he writes the following. It's called Miracles for a Broken Planet. Hanukkah is the festival of lights. It commemorates an ancient Jewish rebellion against oppression during which the temple in Jerusalem was miraculously recaptured from pagan Hellenizers and rededicated to the worship of God. The candles of Hanukkah celebrate that rededication. They also help brighten the long winter nights. But I remember a Hanukkah when darkness almost overpowered the light. It was the first week of November in 1938. The final years of the Depression lay like a polluting mist across the streets of New York. On afternoons when it did not rain, I would play on the sidewalk in front of the plate glass window of the candy store near our apartment house. The bubble of darkness on the other side of the world bumped only vaguely against my consciousness. I was very young then, interested more in Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers than Adolf Hitler. One afternoon, I was near the candy store, and in the cardboard box that was my rocket ship, when an elderly couple walked slowly by, I caught some of their frightened words. Before supper that evening, I saw my mother standing over the kitchen sink, her head bowed, and heard her whispering agitatedly to herself. Later, my father came home from work, drenched in weariness. He turned on the radio and became wearier still. That night, I lay awake in my bed and saw the pieces of the day come together and form a portrait of terror. A Jewish boy had shot a German, the old people had said. We will pay dearly for it, very dearly. The boy had been sent by his parents to live with his uncles in Paris, my father had murmured. Then his parents were deported to Poland. The boy went out of his mind, my mother had said in a voice full of fear. He did not know what he was doing. He wanted to kill the German ambassador, my father had said. He wanted the world to know about the suffering of Germany's Jews. Inside the embassy, he made a mistake and shot and wounded a subordinate instead. He was out of his head with grief, my mother had said. He could not have known what he was doing. I lay very still in my bed, thinking of the boy who had shot the German and wondering what the Germans would do to the Jews. 2 days later, the subordinate died. In the weeks that followed, I dreamed about the synagogues that were burning all over Germany, about the Jews who were being sent to concentration camps, about the looted stores and smashed up shop windows. One day I stood in front of our apartment house and imagined our street littered with glass, shattered glass everywhere. The plate glass window of the candy store splattered across the sidewalk. The store itself burned and gutted. I imagined the entire block, the neighborhood, the city heaped with broken glass and thick with the stench of fire. The days of that November and December began to go dark until it seemed all the world would soon be shades of darkness. Dark sun and dark moon, dark sky and dark earth, dark night and dark day. I was a child then, but I still remember that darkness as a malevolence I could touch and smell, an evil growth draining my world of its light. My world seemed thick with darkness when Hanukkah came that year on the 25th day of December. I remember my father chanting the blessings over the first candle on that night of the first night of the festival. He was short and bald, and he chanted a thin, intense voice. I stood between him and my mother, gazing at the flame on the first night's candle. The flame seemed pitiful against the malignant darkness outside of our window. I went to bed and was cold with dread over the horror of the world. The next 2 nights, candles were lighted. Again, my father chanted the blessings before the lighting and the prayer that follows when the candles are burning. We kindled these lights on account of the miracles, the deliverances, the wonders which thou didst work for our fathers and mothers. We are only to look at them in order that we may give thanks unto thy name for thy miracles, thy deliverances, and thy wonders. I wanted a miracle, but there were no miracles during that Hanukkah. Where was God? I kept dreaming of burning synagogues. On the 8th and final night of the festival, I stood with my parents in front of the burning candles. The darkness mocked their light. I could see my parents glancing at me. My mother sighed. Then my father murmured my name. You want another miracle? He asked wearily. I did not respond. Yes, he said, you want another miracle. He was silent a moment. Then he said in a gentle, urgent voice, I also want another miracle, but if it does not come, we will make a human miracle. We will give the world the special gifts of our Jewishness. We will not let the world burn out our souls. The candles glowed feebly against the dark window. Sometimes I think man is a greater miracle maker than God, my father said tiredly, looking at the candles. God does not have to live day after day on this broken planet. Perhaps you will learn to make your own miracles. I will try to teach you how to make human miracles. I lay awake a long time that night and did not believe my father could ever teach me that, but now, decades later, I think he taught me well, and I'm trying to teach it to my own children. On your song sheets, Mi Yamalel. Mi Yamalel Vurot Israel Otam Nehem Bechodor Yakum Agibor Goel Mi Yamalel Vurot Israel Otam Nehem Bechodor Yakum Agibor Goel Shema Le'omi Ma'el Mazman Hazeh Ma'kovi Moshiach Ufodeh U'b'yadeinu Kol Am Yisrael Yit'yachid Yakum Ve'yigael. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? Who can tell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid.
Who can count them? In days of yore in Israel's ancient land, great Maccabi has led the faithful hand. But now all Israel as one must arise, redeem itself through deed and sacrifice.
That's the play that we have back and forth between the miracles of God and the work that we each must do. A song that's not on your sheets, Al Hanissim, for all of the miracles that God has done for our ancestors. Al Hanissim
Ve'al ha'purkan ve'al ha'gvurot ve'al ha'tshuot ve'al ha'niflaot she'asita la'avoteinu bayamim ha'em hazman hazeh. Al hanissim ve'al ha'purkan ve'al ha'gvurot ve'al ha'tshuot ve'al ha'niflaot she'asita la'avoteinu bayamim ha'em hazman hazeh.
And tonight we celebrate the arrival of Hanukkah, of course, and Shabbat. So if you have Shabbat candles, we will transition into receiving Shabbat. You can get your candles, you can use your shamash to light the Shabbos candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech תשענו במצוותיו, וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת. God, you are the one who is full of blessing. You are the source of light and blessing. You have given us commandments to help us lift our lives into holiness. Each night we add more light onto our plate, into our lives. So may our kindling on these lights of Shabbat help us to elevate ourselves and our world into a world of light and blessing. Let's say amen. Switching handouts to our Shabbat booklet that we have that's on our live stream page or on the front page. Shalom Aleichem. We welcome the ministering angels of peace into our homes. How wonderful that we can celebrate Shabbat and look a little bit into each other's homes as you can scroll through the page in the gallery that's there. We are each other's ministering angels of peace. We certainly can be. God is the beloved of our soul and stays with us through the all of life. Yeti Nefesh. On the front page of our prayer book was just by way of expectation. Tonight our Kabbalat Shabbat service is abridged. It will not be the full Kabbalat Shabbat service that we typically do. And so it is for us to welcome the Sabbath bride into our midst on this Shabbat and to celebrate with her arrival. And the words on page 3 in our prayer booklets.
Kabbalat.
Psalm 92 on page 4, a psalm of gratitude for this day of Shabbat.
Mizmor shir le'yom ha'Shabbat, Mizmor shir le'yom ha'Shabbat, Tov le'odom Adonai, U'zamer shimcha le'yom, Le'agim ba'boker chasrecha, Ve'emunatcha ba'le'yom, Ha'nei hasor v'ha'nei navel, Ha'lehi yayom v'chinor, Le'agim ba'boker chasrecha, Ve'emunatcha ba'le'yom, Ha'nei hasor
Embedded within our liturgy is the name of the Maccabees. In the Michamocha, which actually comes from the book of Exodus, we see, and we're on page 6 in our booklets, Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you, O God? Our ancestors called out when they made it safely across the sea. How many times have we said that? When we have survived yet another moment, and yet again we have been redeemed. And we look very much to God for help with all of that. But actually, the story of Hanukkah is very much about individual free will and the role of each person in the community to decide what's going to be for the collective. And the rabbis read that same lesson into the story at the sea as well. That although God brought us out of Egypt and did all the wonderful signs that are beyond wonder, beyond explanation, it was Nachshon. They put on this one individual who jumps into the sea because he's not going to wait for a miracle. And the rabbis teach us, don't rely on a miracle. Nachshon evidently knew the Talmud before the Talmud was the Talmud. And Nachshon jumps into the water and begins trying to swim for freedom. He's not a good swimmer. It's a whole story as to really why we pronounce the Hebrew as we do. But the lesson there is redemption happens because one individual, not Moses, jumped in the water and began swimming. And on account of that, because of that modeling, we all went free. Each of us can be that one who helps to change the direction in any way, good or bad, for betterment of all or disaster. We have that much weight, yes, on each of us. And the Maccabees took that upon themselves to say, what's going to be for us? And on the backside of that could say, who is like you, O God? We know the individual role is tremendous, and we're grateful to God for the strength that we have to work through that which is. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai. Take the first letter of those 4 words, and it spells Maccabee. We're on page 6. We're going to put it to Ma'oz Sur.
Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nedar b'kodesh, lo rachim lo osef eleh, Adonai imlach le'olam va'ed, Adonai imlach le'olam va'ed.
We ask God's protection upon us through the all that life gives us. That God gives us peace to lie down at night, calm, gentle repose, so that we can rise in the morning in good life. Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom.
לשלום, בעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guide us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. 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 We have Shabbat because we're commanded, but we continue because each generation helps us to make sure that we're able to. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. בני ישראל Take a moment tonight for just some private, quiet prayer, collectively while we're in our Zoom space with one another, to offer our own meditations and thoughts. Let's just sit in silence wherever we are. It may or may not be so quiet in your homes, but in our own container, our own little space, we will make quiet, and we'll emerge from that quiet with the words of Shalom Rav, a prayer for peace. Shalom Yisrael,
Baruch atah Adonai, Oseh HaShalom. When we get to this Torah portion of where we are right now, Vayeshev, I make sure that I wear this particular talit, which I got. It's a talit from the Ethiopian Jewish community. Of course, the fabric in it is very African in look and very colorful, because we start to read about Joseph. And really from here until the end of the book of Genesis, Joseph figures very prominently. But I want to take just a moment to give a Devar Torah, a teaching from Torah, not about Joseph, but about his brother Reuben. Reuben is the oldest of all of the boys. He is the firstborn son of Leah, and the firstborn of Jacob thus as well. And he's really responsible for the crew. And of course, we know the story that Joseph comes along to his brothers, and the brothers begin to conspire that they don't like this guy with all those dreams. And they say, well, we're going to kill him. So Reuben hears, it says in chapter 37, verse 21, Vayishma Reuben. Reuben heard what the brothers were conspiring about, Vayatzilehu miyadam, and he sought to save them from their hand. Vayomer lo nakenu nafesh. He said to them, let's not kill anybody here. Vayomer alehem Reuben, al tishbechu dam, hashlichu oto el habor. And Reuben says to them, don't murder him, but rather throw him into this pit. El habor hazeh asher b'mitvar, in the middle of the wilderness here. V'yad al tashlichu bo, and don't cast forth. Don't hit him. Don't hurt him. Leman hatzil oto. He does this in order that he may come along and save him from their hand. Interesting, it's their hands, by the way, not their hands. It's as if they were all an act together. To save them from their hand in order to return him to his father. Now, the Torah tells us that he convinces, Reuben does, his brothers to throw Joseph into a pit, intending to eventually rescue him and return Joseph to Jacob. Of course, things don't work out that way, as Judah comes along, the fourth son of Leah, comes along and convinces the brothers to sell Joseph before Reuben is actually able to get him home safely. So there's a text that comes along in the Midrash of Rabbi Yitzhak, the son of Marion, who says the passage comes to teach us that if a person is going to do a mitzvah, they should do it with their whole heart. Right? He says, why does he do that? Why does he say, let's throw him in a pit? Why doesn't he, if he wants to return to his father, do it, man. Like, go save him from his brothers. If Reuben had known, the Midrash says, that God would ultimately write this story in the Torah, he might have done it a little bit differently, which is a moment for us to think about. We have to be careful what we say and what we do, because it will be recorded. We just don't know what part of what we do or say is going to be recorded. And so it says at the beginning of this Midrash, if you're going to do something, do it with a full heart. Why? Because those later generations are going to come along and they're going to learn about what we have done. And we don't want them coming along and saying, you could have done better. You should have tried this. Reuben is trying to placate his brothers who were seeking to kill Joseph. But by suggesting to throw him in a pit, he only causes further harm and pushes off the necessary reconciliation that will take years to happen. We have to live our lives knowing it will be read that we're uncertain of what parts will be recalled. The Sfat Emet, who is a Hasidic master of the 20th century and whose readings we're drawing from during these nights of Hanukkah during our candlelighting ceremony, he says of this Torah portion, if Reuben had known, and he, of course, the Sfat Emet knows from this Midrash, if Reuben had known, the Sfat Emet says, I interpret this to mean that the actions of our patriarchs and matriarchs, the actions were Torah, teaching. That is, they were aware that the potential of their descendants was in all of their actions, that their descendants would gain merit through their own actions, taken in light of their lives. Therefore, the actions of the ancestors merited to be written down in the Torah. The children of Israel reflect on these deeds and understand them, and then strive to live in upstanding fashion by means of studying their ancestors' actions in the Torah, the good actions and the ones that we may indeed challenge and question. If Reuben had known that his actions would be studied for generations, in other words, had he had such an awareness, the Sfat Emet tells us, it would have strengthened him and he would have borne Joseph to his fathers on his own shoulders. If Reuben had realized, he would have not suggested, oh, put him in a pit. He would have said, guys, no, I'm taking him now. He's going back to dad. Each person must strive to think how all their actions extend to their descendants in all future generations. We are the ancestors of those who come later. For the Sfat Emet, the lesson is not only that Reuben should have been aware that the eyes of history were on him, it is also that had he loved with such a consciousness, that itself would have become a source of strength. He would have seen and heard all of these future souls of us, holding him up in a moment that required courageous action. Because he didn't have such a consciousness, he wound up doing only half the job. He saved Joseph, but he never brought him home. Each of us has a chance to make a genuine difference in this world. Our text, our stories, give us light and encouragement to think about the implications of what we do halfway, and what we don't do at all. Because it will be noted, just as we note what came before us. May we act with good conscience and with the intention for blessing and to work to help one another. Ken Yeh Ratzon. May it be God's will. May we make it our own as well. As we prepare to recite the words of Kaddish together, a reading, unknown author, it's called In Many Houses. In many houses all at once I see my father and my mother, and they are young as they walk in. Why should my tears come to see them laughing? That they cannot see me is of no matter. I was once their dream. Now they are mine. In many houses all at once, I see my father and my mother, and they are young as they walk in. Why should my tears come to see them laughing? That they cannot see me is of no matter. I was once their dream. Now they are mine. Take a moment to hold in our hearts all those in the family of the human world who have died in this past week at the hands of terror and of tragedy. In particular, we hold those families mourning the loss of their loved ones due to the coronavirus, the pandemic that has plagued our world and hit the United States in such an awful, awful way. And we hold them in our hearts and indeed work to help one another. Take a moment of silence. We remember at this time those in our circle who have died in this past year. Harris Klein, Anita Kaufman, William Burton, Paul Minkoff, Gerald Friedman, Rhoda Gittenstein-Sundberg, Al Medlovitz, Myra Perez, Miriam Blickman, Arthur Bruce Goldberg, Janet Martin, Fran Shapiro, Wilma Fisher, David Savage, Jane Joyner Burton, Daniel Kaufer, Lev Lenchik, Vi Keller, Maurice Goldberg, Burton Frank Kramer, Robin Lynn Beebe, Kathy Maffey, Kay Burke Backer, Eva Black, Marsha Elizabeth Julian, Lois Buck-Levin, Ted Solzberg, Deborah Roseman, Daniel Ham, Marvin Gottlieb, Lee Smith. And those for whom we're marking your site on this Shabbat: Phil Bauman, Helen Block, Abraham Brenner, John Henry Durham, Lawrence Goldsmith, Peggy Elman Greenbaum, Harry Grossman, Mildred Collette, Joseph Stanley Karish, Alexei Larson, Betty Ray Friedman Lewis, Simon Sid Lifter, Dora Landsberg Peacock, Mickey Rosen, William Rouse, Ronald Schaefer, Bernard David Sundberg. If there are any names whom you are remembering at this time, please feel free to offer them before we will say the words of Kaddish Shatom. Zichronam Livracha. May their memory be for a blessing. The words of Kaddish Shatom are on page 11 in our prayer booklets. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei hara be'alma divrach chilutei yamnich malchutei b'chayei chol v'yom echol v'chayei b'chol beit Yisrael ba'arav yizmad kari yimru amen. Yehei shmei hara v'ra be'elam be'amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitomam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kusha richu Leila mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma v'niru, amen. Yehi shlam ha'rabbanim shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mrama, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol Yisrael tivel v'imru, amen. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens above make peace for us, for all of Israel and all our world, giving comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say, amen. What a pleasure to be with everybody. I'd like to invite Vivian Smith, who will be making announcements for this Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. Gosh, it's been since March 8th, 2019, since I did this 2020, right? 2020. Anyway, sometime about there. Good to see everybody here tonight. And just a couple things. Upcoming Shabbatot, next Friday, December 18th, will be 6 p.m. on live stream. And then Friday, December 25th, will be a pre-recorded, so you can watch it at your leisure. For Shabbat mornings, we have Shabbat Kids Zoom, and that continues Saturday, December 12th at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning for families with children ages 0 to 8. There will not be a Shabbat Kids Zoom on 12/26 or 1/2. We're also reminding everybody that the second Shabbat of each month will be our Zoom Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat, and so that we can see each other like we are tonight. We continue with the iEngage sessions on Saturday mornings, together and apart, and those are Zoom sessions. Our next session is tomorrow morning, and we're going to explore the nature of the Jewish people, both American Jews and Israeli Jews, and that's going to be at 10 a.m. Hanukkah is through December 18th. Lots of details in our temple emails. We want to thank everyone who came out last Sunday for a very successful afternoon Hanukkah parking lot drive-through with the lucky gifts, the religious school gifts, the Ronald McDonald House drop-off, and Lois with her clothesline, and the gift shop pickup. We'll continue with our Zoom candle lighting each night of Hanukkah. Typically will last about 15 minutes, starts at 5:30 with guest readings from our temple members. And you can also watch it on demand on our YouTube channel. The Nefesh Mountain Concert, I hope that you've registered for that for tomorrow night because registration is closed. It's at 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Do check your email for your ticket. And also you can look in our Staying Connected for any other directions that you may need to join the concert. And then the Mavens have a Hanukkah celebration, a Zoom celebration on Thursday, December 17th at 3 p.m. and everyone is welcome. And it will be a musical concert by our own Jason McKinney and his wife, Karen McKinney. So we're looking forward to that. I'm actually going to try to dodge out of work a little bit early. And then the Sages to Ages Beit Midrash Zoom. 4 classes have been taught by North Carolina Reform rabbis. And this Tuesday will be the last session, December 15th. And that's from 9:30 to 11:45. So see the details that are in Staying Connected. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Vivian. We have a little internet going on, I think. So that's why we weren't able to focus, I think, on Vivian. We were focusing on your words, no question. I just a plug the tomorrow the Sages to Eat, or the Together and Apart series that we're doing on Shabbos morning. If you're not able to make it, that's okay. You should still log on and go watch these videos, and the resource guide is just remarkable. Tomorrow, what we're looking at, the text, part of the text we're doing in particular is the Israeli Army's Code of Ethics and what that means in light of our kind of overall theme where we're studying right now is the ideas of nationalism, ultranationalism, kind of how that plays out for us as Jews and as for Israel. For the Mavens, there's going to be a big treat with Jason and Karen singing. We have been so fortunate, Jason, that we have you singing for Shabbat. And when you and Karen are together, it's remarkable. It's really quite lovely. And you just did this once online on Facebook.
Yeah, we've done it. Yesterday was our second, and the week before was our first. We're doing it on Wednesdays at 5:30 for a little happy hour get together, and really just to get in the groove of doing it on a regular basis. So.
It's beautiful. And so where do they find that? On your Facebook page or on
They find it on my wife's, Karen McKinney, K-A-R-O-N.
So that's on, and it stays up. So go watch it. It's really very special to hear the two of you. We have Kiddush tonight. If you've got a Kiddush cup, we can look at each other doing Kiddush. So grab a Kiddush cup. The Kiddush itself is on page 12 in our booklets.
Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho v'yavav v'ratzon yinchilanu zikaron b'maaseh b'reshit Kihu yom de'ila l'mikra'ei kodesh זכר ציון מצרים קיבלנו בחרת ואותנו גירשת מכל העמים ושבת קדשך ואהבהו ברצון In Kabbalat, Adonai, G'daresh Hashem.
Our closing song tonight, by the way, there are various handouts for this holiday season, one of which it's called Mashiach and the letters on the dreidel. That's downloadable. I have it here for some reason as if you'd be able to see it. And there's this really kind of a play, and I've created some meditations and some things just for us to think about during this season. It's just another way to celebrate the holiday. If you have your song sheets, which I'm sure I have mine somewhere, you will find the words of Hatikva on it. We're going to close with Hatikva tonight, because if we think about what that song is about, our people's anthem, it is this idea of hope. Hope is what keeps us alive during the darkest of moments. And our ancestors held on to hope for what could be for thousands of years. We are living in what is known sometimes as the third commonwealth of the people of Israel. First temple, second temple, and then this moment right now. And the state emblem of Israel, which is on our song sheet, is the menorah. Not the Hanukkah, not the Hanukkah menorah, the menorah that stood in the temple, the 7-branch candelabra, which is what the Maccabees went to relight when they rededicated it. Why? Because that represents the very sense of holiness and purity and God's presence with us and our strength to endure and go on, and our connection with creation writ large. After all, there are 7 branches for a reason, tied to creation. So we hope in our hearts for better days, as we hope with one another to keep our people's land strong and safe and well, and all the lands where we live, strong and safe and blessed for all who live inside their borders. We will rise. We rise in holiness. We rise with hope. Hatikva. May this Hanukkah be one of good health and joy and celebration. May we work with one another to bring about blessing. May it be God's will. May we make it our own and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. You can unmute yourself.
Shabbat Shalom,
everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Put it there.
See everybody. Have a good weekend.
You too. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Hi.
Happy birthday, Naomi, wherever you are.
Birthday?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I need to.
Today's their birthday.
Hey, Ellen. Hey, Marilyn.